Go ahead,
Good
bro.
morning, great people. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Positivity and love. What's going on, cuz?
What's going on, sir? How are you, man?
Man, I feel great, man. I'm a speak it, I'm a live it, I'm walking into existence, man. Today we
Yes, sir.
talking, man, co-parenting, man. Disciplining your wife or maybe your possible husband or boyfriend's kids. Let's get it.
Ooh.
Unc Cal and Dave Jones are the host of the show. We living in some difficult times, as most of us know. Let's lift each other up and put down the stress. If you didn't know, the name of the show is called Rap.
Yes, sir, man. This is a hot one. This is a very, very touchy topic right here, man. So go ahead and set us up, man.
Okay, man. I had a partner reach out to me, man, and he was telling me how a friend of his, disciplined, his stepson, his wife's child, and that the father, was very upset about it, and they like almost, finna shoot it out, So he asked me to touch on that, and I figured since you got a son by your ex-wife, and so do I got kids, by my ex-wife, and we both remarried, that this would be a good subject to touch on, man. I think this was a good one and a
Yeah.
hot one. I told him I was gonna jump on this subject. So, here we are. So first of all, I want to just, give my outlook on it. I think basically it has to do with like an individual type of thing. I think when two people decide to move on to a
Mm-hmm.
new relationship and you got kids involved, I think it's very important, to be mature in the situation to make sure that you can get rid of all resentment towards the ex-wife, ex-boyfriend, baby daddy, baby mama, to where you can actually sit them down. Kind of put me in the mindset of the whole Mandeezy thing when I seen him sit his wife down with his child's mother, and you got to get to a point where everybody just get mature to the point where whoever the new person is in the picture can set a precedence with the father, the mother. May it be that they on the same page, that you can actually feel the spirit or the character on a person that's going to be over your child in most cases more than you, now that your ex has moved on. So I think it's very important, man, that you get to know the person, and that's something I did,
Yeah.
and we actually got real cool, man, and I consider the brother a friend, and we kick it, so often, not much, but
Sure.
when the opportunity presents itself, we kick it, we talk about everything, and we just open and real with each other to the point where, me personally, in my relationship with the gentleman, I feel like that I know the guy character. I know he God fearing. I watch how he deal with his kids. I watch what my kids say about him, to the point where if it came to a position, if it came to the point where he had to discipline my kids, which I know his way of discipline really ain't hands. Mine's is, because I think when a child, I think that's something that's been stripped out of the household, that was very important, because to me it's funny how they would tell your kids to call child protective services on you if you put your hands on them, but they'll pull up if you can't discipline them, and they'll
Will
tase
do.
your kids or
Right.
they'll kill your kids, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying, and don't allow you to discipline them, to the point where they got these video games and different things around that shoot them up, bang bang kill, to the point where they allow you to these kids to think they can disrespect the parent. And in some situations where I seen a young lady, in my kids, in my best friend's Kasim and his daughter's school, I seen a young lady kill her mama.
Mm.
And a lot of my friends knew the mama and was posting her, and you know giving her rest in heavens and rest in peace. And but this was a situation where, from what I understand, where a young lady was dating an older man. The mother wanted to put a stop to it. It got into a heated argument. They got to pulling knives on each other, and the daughter stabbed the mom and killed her. So you see so many situations where discipline is being stripped out of the home, to the point where the kids feel like they got this shield to where they can disrespect the parent, and all these parents trying to be buddy buddy with these
Right.
kids, and so on and so forth, or they got to try to reason with their kids, to the point where the kids is basically having no respect, or thinking they can run or call shots the way they want to without no discipline. And now you got a situation where the kids is either disrespecting the stepfather, the stepmother, or they disrespecting the parent, and it's even to the point where they feel like, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, and they got a shield to where they can call child protective services, or they feel like they tough enough to where they can stand up and they can raise their chest up at you, man. So this, you know, I think this was a good subject, and it's a problem that's going on in a lot of households.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of great points and things to talk about within there, and it's a lot of unknowns to really give counsel into this, because every situation is different. It's different in this. But going back to the root of the conversation of specifically when you're talking about men, where, you know, a stepfather and the actual biological father seem to be having beef on disciplining a child. I imagine it'd be a young boy, which, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. And I think there's so many questions before it's permissible, if at all. And so the question is, should you allow, or is it okay for the step parent to actually participate in physical discipline, is what we're talking about,
right,
as
right.
a response to what you're doing. You know, and then it's ironic, I've been on both sides of this particular coin here, and so I think I can speak to it. And you, one thing that you said, I think it's all about first the understanding or the mutual relationship of those who are parented. It's always hard when there's disagreement, or there's, you know what I'm saying, you know, a dislike of the other party. Most relationships, when they break up, before we even get to the child, you know, they just don't like each other for whatever reason, you know, some good, some not good. It's just, you just don't like each other. And so anything that the opposite party does, you totally got a problem with it. And so to talk about disciplining your child, it's kind of like, what are you talking about? It doesn't even make sense. So how could you get to you putting your hands on my child when I don't even like you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's kind of hard to tell that type of person what they should allow, you know what I'm saying, the step parent to do in that situation. So there's what my empathy is. But assuming that you have what you suggested, the opportunity that where you can make some type of consolation, or you guys can connect and you know each other, and the parents have gotten over their immature beef of whatever their issue was, and they can actually be cordial, then it graduates you to another conversation of now intent. You know what I'm saying? And in this particular situation, like for a parent, you talk about a step parent, I'm assuming that means there's marriage involved. So there's a vested interest. If I'm a stepfather, that means I actually have some skin in the game. I have to take care of the child. I have to come, you know what I'm saying? Especially if I got the child more time than not, I am responsible for the instruction, for the training, for the guiding of this child, because they're under my house. And now I'm invested in the child. So there gives me some level of concession to have an input on how we guide the child, even scripturally, because, you know, the Bible says, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. Simply meaning is, if you don't take an opportunity to use physical discipline as a way to wake the child up for a negative consequence, because you got to remember, we're assuming that the child is doing something stupid. If there's a negative behavior that the child is doing, sometimes just speaking to a child is not enough. You have to remind them by physical. So it's like, it makes sense to do it. Now the question is, if I'm the step parent, when am I, you know what I'm saying, it's agreed that I can actually get involved. And so
right. And that's why I say it goes back to making sure you're on the same page. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, like we bring, you know, we speaking of, we said in the Bible, you know, another scripture in the Bible is, you know, honor thy mother and thy father, may your days be long upon the land. Mm-hmm. So what's the reverse of that? If you don't honor your mother and your father, whether it may be stepfather, real partners, anybody that love you enough to parent you, your day is going to be short on this land. Because if you don't understand discipline, if you don't understand what respect is, starting in the household, there's no way you're going to be able to go out here in the world as a child, becoming a young adult, and respect people and understand what respect is if you ain't learned it at home. And that could ultimately allow you to lead to being killed out here, because a lot of people just ain't buying disrespect. Mm-hmm. You know, and on the flip side of that is, these kids need to learn that, you know, most people, especially older people, have wisdom and knowledge that can guide them into situations that allow them not to have to experience different things that makes life hard on them. But, you know, these kids nowadays, man, they so, you know, internet savvy and computer savvy, and they got so much in front of them as far as the reality TV shows. and the internet and this Facebook and Instagram, so much stuff to blind them and to make them grown so fast and make them want to, have a hunger for things that's so much not important, especially at a certain age, to where they focus on a lot of things that's not important, and also allows them to become more mature than they should be at a certain age. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And with
So,
that
but just so we can stay on, because there's several topics to get through. Like, we're assuming that the kid is, like you're suggesting, like out of control, like they don't know how to respond to proper instruction. So it almost calls for a discipline. So the question is, if we're talking about two adults, two parents, biological and a step parent, what's the communication? What's the conversation between them? And the permission is really what the question is, that we can try to help people respond to properly in this process. And so I think, we're going to assume that the kid is bad, but the parents is like, when should they get involved? I think other than the questions that we already talked about earlier, it's like, also you have to talk about when a parent or a step parent is getting involved, what is their method, if I'm saying, of the instruction, of the discipline. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think in most situations, I think the step parent would ultimately take it to the biological parent first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And tell them, your son or our son is disrespecting us. He's not doing this, that, and the third. You need to talk to him. I really don't, want to get to the point where I got to discipline him or, get physical with him, but it's getting out of hand. So in most cases, I do feel like the step parent would take it to the actual parent first. But once it get to a point where it's so out of hand that the biological parent can't do nothing, you know what I'm saying? I think the next step would be to step to the biological mother and father that's not in the household and let them know what's going on, to the point where they can understand that the step parent or the step mother or father has to step in because this child is not listening, and allow the other party, which is the mother or the father outside of the house, to step in and say, hey, I hear such and such, because any mature woman or man is going to step in and with enough, love for their child, knowing that something like this might be possibly coming forth, as far as, a physical altercation or something like that, they will want to step in and stop it, and get the child in line, or even try to reason with the child to find out if it's really the child, if it's a disrespect or a mistreatment of the step parent, how they, because everybody reasoning ain't the same, and everybody understanding to what discipline and disrespect is not the same. So I think the root of the issue would be finding out who wrong in the situation. Is it the child or is it the step parent?
We're going to assume, because there's so many different ways we can go, and we would almost need to have those particular people here, to get them the best way to respond. But you almost set up somewhat of a guideline. It's almost like if a child is misbehaving and there's, a couple, a mixed couple in the house, like far as stepdad and the biological. You said the first step is to get the biological parent within the home to try to resolve it.
Right.
So we're assuming that, okay, that didn't work. The second step would be for the step parent that's in the home to reach out, if it's possible, to the biological parent outside the house.
If they on the same page.
Well,
it's good for the biological mother or father that's in the house to reach out to the parent that's, not in the house. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. So let's put those together, where the in-house parents both reach out to try to have that conversation with over there. And there's a step 3 to where, again, the actual step parent who's in the house, assuming it is the father, who has usually the more dominating control physically to help instruct the kid, assuming that the intent is right, that they can step in on a third party. But going back to the number 2, like you said, this is the power that we all need to come to, where the disagreement starts. It's the disagreement between the parents in and out the house that needs to be resolved. And most times when you talk about co-parenting, if you take your emotions out and then you figure out that you're actually in relationship with the parents, both you are in relationship, whether you like it or not, you are family. And you're family relative because you share vested interests and you relate, root word of relationship, to this child. And if your intent is for the child to become better, to be instructed, to be guided, that is the interest, not personal egos, what you did wrong, what I don't like about you, you suck, and all that kind of stuff. Once we allow our parenting like disagreements or our parenting dislikes to interfere with the purpose of what we should have the invested interest on, this is where, sorry about that. This is where we miss the opportunity to help the child, which is who we're all supposed to be loving. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to instruct somebody to respond correctly if they haven't resolved their bickering, which is difficult in most cases because everybody is not cordial. You follow what I'm saying? But that's where it has to start in order to properly resolve even the steps you just gave. You follow what I'm saying? Of when it's all right for the step parent to get involved in the situation.
Right. That's good, man. Yeah. So and that's very important. And I think, you know, that's why it's very important for somebody to be spiritual throughout this family. Somebody got to have a relationship with God, because somebody can, you know, humble themselves and, you know, lay on their face and you know, repent and or ask God to even deal with their own hurt and emotion and pride to make them humble themselves, to just go back and say sorry and even take accountability for whatever it is that they feel like the other person did wrong or they did wrong, to come to a point where you can allow yourself to humble yourself spiritually, to get on the same page and lean on that friendship y'all once had, you know what I'm saying, now that the divorce is over. Because a lot of people carry this resentment and this hatred and this dislike, like you were saying earlier, to the point where it'll get in the way of what's the most important thing in this situation, which is the child, because you carrying your pride on your shoulder, or you ain't forgave a person, or, you know what I'm saying? And if you ain't got God in your heart where you can just do that, you know, the Bible says forgive a man 77 times in one day. And at some point you just got to say, hey, I moved on, you know, I'm beyond this. Let me just speak my piece and say sorry for whatever I did wrong in the situation. And then I think y'all can get on the same page where it can be some communication on all parties, to where y'all can, you know, really come together and do what's best for the interest of the child. You know what I'm saying?
That's beautiful. And I think that's where it all works is when the child's well-being or welfare becomes the important, it begins to eliminate my own hatred or bickering or selfish motivation.
Right. And
then once you establish that it's about the child that we're loving, how do we best co-parent this child? This is where you get into the method of, you follow what I'm saying, of discipline, and when it is permissible based upon the type of behavior, you follow what I'm saying, and then the order of operation. What do I send them to you first if you don't want me to touch it? Because again, me having a stepchild in my house that, you know what I'm saying, that I invested in the family, that I chose to take care of. And then it depends on if you get them young, you follow what I'm saying, you got a relationship with the child, you get a stepchild, you know, you marry somebody, they're 2-3 years old, and you grow up with the child. Like, you just as much as their parent as the other who maybe not have been there the amount of time. So a lot of these dynamics are really need to be asked or brought into question. But once you identify some medium ground, then you just have to walk out a process that you both can agree upon. And then that's what make it okay. Because I think it's okay ultimately for the step parent to discipline the child physically based upon the invested interest and the communication of what's going on within the co-parenting parties. But you got to grow up to that.
Just to wrap this up, man, and kind of give some clarification to a partner of mine who asked us to speak on this, you know, so I think the most important thing that everybody should walk away with on this particular podcast is it's very important for the inside and outside parent, you know, to make sure they're on the same page, as far as the stepfather and the biological father, as far as the stepmother and the biological mother. I think it's very important for them to mature and make sure they all on the same page and forgive and forget anything that ain't got nothing to do with what's going on in the present, which is the child, and make sure they on the same page and to where they can work together as a team. Because like you say, you know, they become relatives. Everybody become a big blended family. So with that being said, you can't have, you know, rules over here that's set apart from rules over there. Everybody's household rules got to be on the same page so they all can work together to make sure that if discipline comes down upon a child, that we all are on the same page and understand why. We've been dealing with an issue. We talked about it. We all on the same page about this issue, and this child is just rebelling. So I think, that would be, the key to, getting the right discipline for the child, because everybody is in a loop. Everybody understands what's going on with the child, and everybody is working hard as a team to make sure they do what's best for this child. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And the most important thing you said in there is it really grows us up, because it causes you to have to communicate to the other family, right. The parents. And that's the biggest part. This is where you need grace. This is where you need patience. And this is where you need a bit of love, that you can get over what you say your past issues. And that's the only disconnect, is when we don't agree, then everything, no matter what we do, you don't like what I got on, just because you don't like me. It ain't about going as far as discipline a child. It's like, can we get on the same page, and can somebody swallow their pride for a season to try to communicate? Can we try to talk to each other to make sure that we have this child's interest in mind, and that we're healed to some degree, and then we can try to make this happen? Other than that, it's just going to be chaos, because it ain't hard to get mad at a cat hitting your son. Like, that's not even hard to do. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Especially if you ain't, mature enough till you got to the point where you even on the same page with the person you divorced. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah.
It's like, I'm ready to go to war. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, so, exactly. So, I got empathy both ways, but the way you willingly respond is you get on the same page, and you got to swallow your pride, and you got to sit down and talk, because you ain't going to get rid of this family. You're going to be family as long as you married, whoever married. You follow what I'm saying? So you take an opportunity to work it out.
Right. All right. Willingly responding. That's a wrap.
Let's go, baby.
All right, Cal and Dave Jones are the hosts of the show. We living in some difficult times, as most of us know. Let's lift each other up and put down the stress. If you didn't know, the name of the show is called Rap.